What's up, everybody? I am your host, the mayor's son who ran off to the West Coast but had to come back because I am a failure. That is my co-host, my former best friend who stole my girl and also watched his father get murdered. And welcome to the Grindhouse Syndicate, where today we are covering a true 80s slasher cult classic and the crown jewel of the Canadian film industry, George Mihalka's My Bloody Valentine from 1981. This movie is so goddamn Canadian. We got a bunch of stories and a boats and some A's and the classic Canadian tuxedo, a full denim outfit.
You know what the only thing this is missing? Hockey.
And syrup. I'm pretty sure
Maple
they got
syrup.
the Canadian syrup, maple syrup.
Yeah, they're really proud of their syrup. But I'm
pretty good.
I'm surprised there was no hockey references.
There's no hockey.
Instead of a pickaxe, he just carried around a hockey stick. Hey.
They probably should have did that. That would have made a lot of sense. There should never be any confusion about where this film came from.
Hey, thank God they didn't put a hockey mask on him, though.
There's some Jason vibes in this movie.
This was before Jason. This was before Jason with the hockey mask.
Yeah.
So everybody would have been like, "Oh no, they stole the Canadian."
He's the Canadian Jason.
Canadian Jason.
Well, pretty much. That's pretty much what we have here.
Sorry. So, how you say it? Sorry.
It's sorry. You got to do the
sorry.
Sorry. I got some Canadian people that I listen to, and they're awesome. So no offense to Canadians. We just kind of crack up with the emphasis on the O and sorry and a boat.
Well, hey, if it makes the Canadians feel better, people in Minnesota. People in Minnesota sound like that, and we're from the South. Everybody else makes fun of the way.
Oh, the whole world makes fun of us. Yeah, but before we get started, I just want to thank all of you who wished my co-host here a happy birthday. We appreciate.
This is just we waited.
We appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to make him feel loved.
Yeah, I appreciate it. All the birthday shout out. It was a pretty good time. We busted out the projector. And
had a movie theater in the backyard.
We watched some Evil Dead and kinda in the woods. So that was cool.
I remember the bugs were almost as loud as the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, the bugs in Midsummer are gonna be a problem. I always thought the bugs was gonna be great for watching like a Friday the 13th or something, because it feels like you're there. But no, it feels like you're there so much you can't hear anything else other than the bugs. They were quite loud.
Also, if you don't know, now you'll know, Spotify went up on their prices for the second time in less than a year. A lot of people are kind of pissed about this. And if you're one of those people that are moving on to something else cheaper, just a reminder, you can find this show all over the place for free. We're on Apple, Audible, Amazon, YouTube, a bunch of sites I'd never even heard of. And if all else fails, you can always head over to the website where you can find every single episode available ad-free for your listening pleasure.
Yeah, honestly, I was surprised at the amount of podcast websites I'd never even heard about.
Yeah.
Like, I know we're on iHeartRadio, but I think there's a lot of partners with those companies that it goes out to a lot of different websites.
Yeah, like 5 months ago, we Googled the show's name just to see what happened. And there are so many websites that I had never heard of that we're on. So, yeah, we're everywhere.
I think we Googled it when you were making the website, trying to see where the website showed up on there.
Yeah, so Spotify, I think, is getting quite expensive now. I want to say like a duo plan is like $17 a month now.
It's all those famous people's podcasts they're paying for.
Oh yeah, they took like a $1 billion loss because they paid all the celebrities like these huge bonuses to do these shows, and then the shows fucking bombed because just because you're famous doesn't mean you're interesting. And they just bombed, and Spotify lost a fuck ton of money.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody the other day who was listening to Danielle Harris and Scott Taylor Compton from Rob Zombie's Halloween on their podcast, and she was I've never heard the podcast. I'm a huge Danielle Harris fan. However, they had that same complaint. They're like, I don't want to hear about like what you had for dinner yesterday. Like that's not exciting.
Yeah, I've heard the show. If you're looking for a show about like movies, like how we do, we focus on the movie that week. They're not a show like that. A lot of people I think go into it thinking they're going to talk just about horror, but they have other things that they like to discuss that's not horror movie related.
Well, you get a lot of people wanting to start podcasts about nothing. They're
Oh,
like, oh,
yeah.
we'll just start a podcast. Me and my friends are going to talk, and the whole world's going to want to listen to it. And then when you get celebrities that I guess they're like, well, fuck it. They're going to pay me a bunch of money. Everybody will just want to hear me talk.
Daniel Josh started a show recently, and he actually refuses to have anybody famous on his show. I believe his first guest was like his wife's vagina doctor. I watched it. It was good.
How do you convince an actual like
He
OBGYN
said he
to
just
come
asked
in?
him.
Yeah, well, if I had a vagina, I'd go to that doctor. He sounds
Yeah.
pretty cool.
He's a cool dude. All right, but let's talk about this Canadian masterpiece.
But first, if you want to stay up to date on what is going on with us or the show, talk about or submit your movie request, or just say hey, you can always find us at one of our social media accounts or our official website at Grindhouse.Horror.Pod.com, Facebook at the Grindhouse Syndicate Horror Podcast, Instagram at Grindhouse.Syndicate.Horror.Pod, and many more, which you can find links for in the show notes as always. And please subscribe or follow for alerts on new episodes.
And if you really love us and don't want us to have to go get jobs in the dark, dirty mine shafts, give us a review. So, My Bloody Valentine is a 1981 Canadian slasher film directed by George Mihalka and written by John Beard. It stars Paul Kellman, Laurie Haler, and Neil Affleck. The plot tells about a group of young adults who decide to throw a Valentine's Day party only to incur the vengeful wrath of a maniac in mining gear who begins a killing spree. Conceived and produced entirely over the course of around a year, the film was shot on location in Sydney Mines, Nova Scotia in the fall of 1980. It was theatrically released on February 11, 1981 by Paramount Pictures, coinciding with the Valentine's Day holiday. Despite a mixed response from critics and grossing $5.7 million at the box office on a $2.3 million budget, the film has developed a large cult following over the years since its release. Director George Mihalka was approached by Cineplex Productions, headed by Andre Link and John Dunning, with a 2-movie contract to direct a slasher film. It was originally titled The Secret. However, producers decided to change it to My Bloody Valentine, so to overly reference the holiday serial killer trend, in which the slasher genre was becoming increasingly popular through films such as Black Christmas, Halloween, and Friday the 13th. Shooting on My Bloody Valentine began in September of 1980, taking place around the Princess Colliery Mine in Nova Scotia, which had closed in 1975. Filming completed in November 1980, 2 mines were considered for the setting, the other in Glance Bay, Nova Scotia. The production company decided on the Sydney Mines location due to the exterior being a dreary, cold, and dusty area with no other buildings around it, so it looked like it was totally in the middle of nowhere.
Is there ever a mine that doesn't look cold and dreary and in the middle of nowhere? I'd like to see the other mine that was considered.
It was
like
too new.
It's like in the middle of like a nice city. It's like Toronto has a mine right in the middle of it. There's a Starbucks inside.
So My Bloody Valentine faced notable censorship, having a total of 9 minutes cut by the MPAA due to the amount of violence and gore. Though co-producer Dunning confirmed that the exercise footage still existed, Attempts to release it has proved difficult as Paramount Pictures refuses to offer an uncut version. Mihalka has said that since making the movie that the most difficult elements of My Bloody Valentine was filming in the mines, located 2,700 feet underground. Filming in the mine was a lengthy process, as due to limited space in the elevators, it would take an hour to transport the cast and crew to the location. Also, due to the methane levels underground, lighting had to be carefully planned as the number of bulbs that could be safely utilized was limited.
Man, I've always thought about how cool it would be to work on a movie, but goddamn, it would be terrible to be the people who had to lug all the equipment and shit down in this mine.
Yeah, well, this is one thing of why I give this movie a lot of props. They shot in an actual mine, like really, really deep underground.
Yeah, so when I was watching, well, particularly towards the end when they're in the mines a lot, I wondered that because I was like, "There's no way that they went down in an actual mine." But God, this would have been like a really hard set to build. That because they go through a lot of this mine. It's not
yeah.
just like one or two scenes. Maybe the opening scenes you could get away with building that as a set or using like a cave or something, but this is very clearly a well done mine. So that makes sense. I had no idea that they actually went that deep into the ground to film.
Fucking the Canadians are hardcore.
Yeah.
So prior to the production's arrival to the mine, the owners cleaned up the location significantly, leaving it described as clean and colorful Disneyland-like set. I've actually read this story. Yeah. When they found out that they were going to film there, they went and cleaned it and painted a bunch of it in all these different colors. And apparently, they got there and they were like, oh, fuck.
Who painted it?
The people who own the mine, I guess.
It's like North Korea when they have visitors.
Yeah.
Like, we got to dress this thing up. Somebody's coming.
Yeah. So this resulted in the production team spending an estimated $30,000 to paint portions of the mine to achieve a darker atmosphere akin to how it appeared in its original state.
I wonder if that's the part where she asked what's on the wall, and they're like, yeah, it's some type of powder. It's used to kind of prevent the explosives from affecting that area. I wonder if that's what that was. It was just the color was off because they had to paint over it.
I don't know. I wish there was some pictures of before it was painted, though. I would like to see what that was like.
You mean before it was painted the second time?
Yeah,
like when
before,
they painted it like fucking Disneyland.
Yeah, so producer Dunning referred to this shoot as horrendous.
Oh, yeah. I don't
no
care
shit.
how smooth that filming was going to go. Going that deep into a mine to shoot a movie would be a fucking nightmare. Like, all I can think about is when I worked for a friend of ours, welding company, when I first got out of the army, and I did that for a year, and running leads, I mean, that shit gets heavy. So I could only imagine the crew. That was my first thought was, oh my God, they had to literally run these fucking leads down here to power the cameras and the lights and all that shit. Like, that would have been fucking awful.
So the crew kept the identity of the killer a secret to the cast members until the end of production, when the final scene was shot in order to assure the actors played their parts in an ambiguous manner. My Bloody Valentine was significantly censored in North America upon its release. For the MPAA to award the movie with an R rating, cuts were requested to every death sequence in the film. Producer Dunning said that the film was essentially cut to ribbons in order to achieve an R rating. Even after cutting the film to match the requirements made by the MPAA, it was again returned with an X rating and further cuts were demanded. Stills of the trimmed footage were published in Fangoria magazine while the film was still in production, though the sequences were extracted from the theatrical version. Even today, the complete uncut version has not been released.
Man, I'm so glad that we're getting away from that. That independent movies are having enough success where a movie like Terrifier can tell the big studios to fuck off and still have a ton of success. That's a great thing. I think it was I want to say it was Rob Zombie talking about a movie, but they essentially went in and, God, I think don't quote me on that, but I think it was Rob Zombie. So they went in and added like a bunch of ridiculous kills to this movie. And because they knew that it was going to get cut up. So they figured it's almost like when you're negotiating for a car. Like if we just make it outrageous
Well,
initially.
Wes Craven did that with Scream originally. Because, I mean, he's battled the MPAA many times before.
Yeah, I'm sure every like big name, and he obviously being a huge name in horror. I never realized. I know I watched like the Camp Crystal Lake, the documentary, and they talk about that on a lot of the Friday the 13th. But it's like any slasher that we cover from this era. Every one of them says the same thing.
Yeah, this director is still pissed about this. I believe he comes on the beginning of the version I
does,
have, and
yeah.
he's like, well, most of it's put back, but it's still not all of it. And we'll talk more about that stuff later. There are two reasons that are frequently attributed to the extreme cutting of the film. It has been suggested that Paramount Pictures was keen to remove the offending footage due to the backlash they had received from releasing Friday the 13th the previous year. The second reason is that the film was cut due to the murder of John Lennon in December of 1980, stating that there was a major backlash against movie violence in the wake of his death.
Yeah, because movies got John Lennon killed.
Yeah, he wasn't in movies, or
Yeah.
the guy who shot him never talked about movies, so that's weird.
Yeah, that's dumb. It goes along with satanic panic and the attack on video games and all the other dumb shit
Marilyn Manson, and yeah.
that the masses have come up with. They always got to have a scapegoat, but people always manage to put that scapegoat on something that's not their parenting.
So following a 2021 Indiegogo campaign, a fan-made sequel named Valentine Bluff was released on YouTube on Valentine's Day of 2023. Taking place 40 years after the events of the original film, TJ and Sarah's estranged child returns to Valentine's Bluff following his mother's death as a new string of murders by a man in a mining suit begin. I wanted to add that in there because I think that's cool. This movie didn't get a sequel. They did try to do a sequel in, off the top of my head, I think it was 2001. But because the movie didn't do great in theaters, like it didn't make a ton of money, Paramount refused to do it. So somebody went and just did it on their own. Good for them.
Bet you they didn't have to cut a bunch of shit out either.
Yeah. Well, it's YouTube, so maybe.
It's just on. Well, most of the fan-made films, they'll release it on something else too. But yeah, if you just did YouTube, I'd assume you probably had to cut a lot of shit out.
And as of very recently, Blumhouse announced that they are developing a reboot of My Bloody Valentine.
Oh, big
Fuck.
surprise! Let me guess. They're signed on for 3 movies.
3 movies. Yeah.
And they're gonna have David Gordon Green destroy it.
Oh, they should just stop doing that.
I was gonna mention the other day. It sucks. I may have said this to you. It sucks, the whole remake thing, and that's coming in again. There was the big remake craze in the early 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
That's coming back. And Blumhouse obviously has the most money to throw around, so they're doing a lot of them. But now they've discovered, if we're going to pay all this money on something, we're just going to make 3 pieces of shit and make 3 times the money off of it. So now we're not even getting like stuck with shitty remakes. We're getting stuck with shitty fucking
Trilogies, yeah. So the ratings, Rotten Tomato gave this bad boy a 58%. That's actually better than I thought it was going to be. IMDb a 6.2 out of 10. Letterboxd gave it a 3.2 out of 5. And 79% of Google users like this movie. If you would like to watch this movie, you can currently find it streaming for free on Pluto TV and for rent on Amazon, YouTube, Apple, Google Play for $3.99.
YouTube's probably going to screw us for that last comment I made.
All right, so let's talk about this plot. So we start off down in the deep, dark tunnels of the mine where we see 2 miners decked out in full uniform. They got the gas mask, the jumpsuit, the gloves, the helmet, all of it. And as they are walking through the mine, they eventually arrive at a stopping point where one miner looks around and the other begins to undress. This immediately threw me for a loop when that miner unzipped her coveralls to reveal a bra and panties. I was like,
Getting some cross-dressing action.
oh boy. Why would they want to sneak in here and fuck though? This
Yeah.
is like the grossest place to try to bone.
It's a strange place. But there's stranger fetishes out there. You know, like I mean, I understand some public like a cemetery or something if you're into that stuff.
Okay.
But yeah, a mine, for one, mines are super sketchy. They could collapse at any time. That would be my first thought, having to go into a mine anyway. But yeah, I don't know, man. Maybe they were married and they were like not married to each other, married to other people, and they're like, "What's the one place we could go?" There's not many places in this town.
Let's go 2,000 feet under the ground.
That's
where the oxygen's thin.
Well, maybe she has an asphyxiation fetish.
Yeah.
That would be a way, and maybe he has a fear of choking people.
Two birds stoned at once.
It's another Canadian reference.
Yeah. So that's honestly half of my Canadian knowledge comes from that show.
Yeah, that's as far as I can think of the only Canadian show I've ever watched in its entirety.
So
like 15 seasons of it.
The striptease miner then removes her mask and helmet to reveal an attractive blonde woman with red lipstick. I guess she didn't really think it was all that weird that the other guy didn't take off any of his clothes yet. Like, she's completely stripped down and he's like, he's still in his whole outfit.
That was the comment I was going to make, maybe they have some, like a BDSM fetish, and part of that is wearing like gas masks and stuff.
Maybe
not my thing, but it is some people's thing. And maybe the bedroom just wasn't enough for him.
She's
like, I can't
strokes
stand
his air hose.
his air hole.
She starts
stuck his finger in it.
Stroking the hose to his mask. And like, I wonder if he feels like Darth Vader if he just keeps the mask on. So while she's rubbing on him, he sees this little heart tattoo on her chest, which sends him into overdrive. And we'll find out why later. But after some heavy breathing, he grabs her by the shoulders and pushes her into his pickaxe that is like, he's like got it stabbed into the wall, causing the end to puncture her back and push out of her chest. We then see the axe poking out of her skin where the tattoo used to be. And as she screams, we get the title card, My Bloody Valentine.
What a great intro.
Kind of weird, but good.
Yeah, it's strange, but very confusing. Sets the stage of who the fuck is this guy. But yeah, a total 80s slasher. We got killing and sex
so far
in the first couple seconds.
We then jump to Tuesday, February 12th, in a small Canadian mining town called Valentine's Bluff, where we see a group of miners who have just finished their shift and are riding the train car up from the mine. And this is where we get our first look at some of our main characters. We have TJ Hanninger, who is the mayor's son, Axel Palmer, Hollis, Howard Landers, and Mike. And these guys are all miners together and have pretty much known each other most of their lives. So once they finish up in the mine, they all go inside this like big shower room to wash off. And while they are cleaning up, we learn that TJ unexpectedly moved from Valentine's Bluff for an undisclosed amount of time, but is now returned, and his former girlfriend, Sarah, is now dating his friend Axel. So we got a good old-fashioned love triangle. A Canadian love triangle.
Yeah. The biggest thing I took from this scene was, man, being a miner would be awful.
God, yes.
Like that is props to those guys, but damn, that would suck.
I've used those showers in the army.
Well, yeah, most people in the army have, and it's not a fun experience. Well, except for some people. Some people enjoyed it a little too much.
So after they clean up, they all decide to go to the bar in town and have some drinks. And as they all drive down Main Street, we see that the whole town is decorated in Valentine's Day decorations, promoting the big Valentine's Day dance. This town goes all out for V-Day. So once they arrive at the Union Hall, which is kind of like a community center, they find some of the women of the town decorating for the big town dance. One thing that's kind of weird is, why are all these adults doing a Valentine's Day dance? Like, was that like a thing in the 80s and it's just not a thing anymore? Or is it like a Canadian thing?
Harry killed all the kids at some point.
I've never
no
been
kids.
to an adult dance. Like, you would just go to the club or the bar for that.
Maybe he killed so many of their parents that all of them grew up without parents. They're just still children at heart. I thought it was weird how, like, the adult thing I thought was weird, like, especially when they go down in the mines to party. But these aren't just like 18 and 19-year-olds. I'm like, these guys are like 30 here. They're like
I'd say they're
mid-20s to 30.
Yeah.
Why are they like sneaking off to the mines to party and shit? Like,
Well, the mayor and the chief, like, the older people in town treat them like kids. You know,
yeah,
like,
that is true.
Like, make sure they can't party. And I'm like, he's fucking like 27 years old. You're going to tell him he can't fucking have a party or something at his house?
Maybe they're being treated like kids because
They're really
they
kids.
act like kids.
Yeah. But this is where we meet Sarah, who used to date TJ but is now dating Axel, Hollis's girlfriend Patty, and Gretchen, who is constantly fighting off Howard's advances. Next up, we meet Mayor Haniger, who is discussing the dance with an older lady named Mabel, who is the head of the decorating committee. And this is where we find out that this is the first Valentine's dance in 20 years in this town. The mayor then heads to the Union Hall, where he meets up with the town police officer, Chief Newby, and as they are leaving for a town meeting, Howard runs out to give the mayor a box in the shape of a heart, claiming someone left him a Valentine before they all arrived. The smitten mayor accepts it, thinking he has a secret admirer. We then jump to Mayor Haniger and Chief Newby riding in the police truck, where we see him excitedly open the heart-shaped box, looking for chocolates.
You know, he makes a comment here that the only thing that's better than Christmas candy is Valentine's candy. And I'm pretty sure Valentine's candy is like the cheapest fucking chocolates you can get. Like
I don't really know that there's difference in the chocolate.
Well, you know, but Christmas doesn't have like a box of shitty chocolates that you buy people for Christmas. Like, everybody knows the heart-shaped box, like the cheap ones that they sell everywhere, is not like good chocolate.
Shit is played out. They need a new thing for that. Pretty sure that heart-shaped box has been around since like the 50s.
The heart. It depends on what you put in it. You put shitty chocolates in it, yeah, that's played out.
The worst is them chalky-ass hearts, though. Fuck them things.
No, I gotta say, so there's one with the mints. You're talking about the chocolate, right?
No, I'm talking about the chalky-ass fucking different color hearts they do for Valentine's Day.
Oh, man, I disagree. I think they're called Sweeties. They actually got rid of those.
Good.
No, they're back.
Oh.
The company who originally made those, I think, went out of business. So there was like a Valentine's Day where those didn't exist.
How'd they go out of business? They sell like 1 billion of them every fucking year.
Well, they only have like one like month out of the entire year to sell anything. So
this is true.
But yeah, and I don't know if it's the same company, if they went out of being closed, they opened back up, or another company bought the rights to sell them. But they are back. But yes, those are played out. You got to get ones that say like,
fuck you.
Yeah, like fuck you or fuck me for Valentine's Day, something.
So anyway, instead of finding chocolates, he finds a fucking bloody human heart with a note that says, "From the heart comes a warning filled with bloody good cheer. Remember what happened as the 14th draws near." Honestly, he didn't have the same immediate reaction that I would have had. He just kind of throws his head back and says, like, it can't be happening again.
This reaction to me and I'm only bringing this up because you brought up his specific reaction. And it's really the only time in the movie I get this, but it gave off serious B-movie vibes. When I seen it, I was like, oh man, this is kind of rough.
Well, he has the same reaction that, like, if he was getting audited again, like, oh fuck, getting audited again.
The IRS is killing our fucking town again. God damn it.
He does not have the reaction that he has a human heart in his lap.
No, and he kind of, yeah, that's pretty serious when you have not just any organ, a heart in your heart-shaped box.
And the cop
That
is
is
like,
the last thing you want to find in your heart-shaped box.
the cop's just puffing that pipe, and he kind of just leans over and like looks over, like, yep, that's a heart. But obviously, we can tell.
They've seen this before, though.
Yeah,
They've probably seen quite a few
before.
hearts.
But this is obviously why the town banned adult adult Valentine's Day parties. We then see Chief Newbie spin the truck around and head back towards downtown. Question for you. Do you think that dog that chases the truck was on purpose, or it just happened?
I think it just happened.
I do too, because the dog almost got run over by the truck.
That dog was getting it.
Yeah.
Like, that was a fucking, I'm pretty sure that was just probably a feral dog, like a neighborhood dog.
That's what I'm thinking.
And it just took off. Because, I mean, for one, training your dog to, like, all right, just chase after this car for a couple 100 yards and come back. But you could train a dog to, but why? Why would you get a trained dog into a movie to do that and then almost run it over?
Yeah, why would you risk your dog? He's like a couple inches from the tires at one point.
Yeah, it looked like they didn't really notice that the dog at first.
Speaking of dogs, I'll jump ahead real quick, but
no dogs die in this movie.
Later on, like when Chief Newbies like finds the heart-shaped box on the curb, and because he hears the dogs fighting over it, and he goes out there and he tries to run them off. That one dog was shitting and did not want to leave. He had to run it off 3 different times.
Maybe they didn't have any dogs. It's like there's shit tons of dogs around the mines. We'll use them.
Yeah. So back in town at the Union Hall, everybody is there getting fuckered up, and we see the old bartender Harp warning people about Valentine's Day and the massacre that took place 20 years ago. So the story goes, 20 years ago on the night of Valentine's Day dance at the Union Hall, which, according to him, is the biggest event of the whole year. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't get that either.
Bigger than Christmas.
Bigger than Halloween?
But anyway, the whole town was at this party except for 7 miners who were working, with 5 of them actually down in the mine. And the 2 supervisors who were up at the top got so excited to get to the party, they decided not to wait for the 5 men to come up and left early, forgetting to check the methane gas levels down below. Soon after, there was an explosion in the mine, trapping the 5 men inside, which no one noticed at first because they were all too busy getting crunk. But once it was discovered, the townspeople dug around the clock for 6 weeks trying to get the 5 trapped men. When they finally got through, only one man was left alive, Harry Warden, and he had managed to survive that long down in the mine shaft only because he had resorted to cannibalizing the bodies of his fellow miners, which caused him to go insane, understandably.
Insane in the membrane, to be correct.
He then spent the next year in the state mental hospital, where exactly 1 year later he escaped and made his way back to Valentine's Bluff to seek revenge. He then killed the 2 supervisors that left early for the party and cut out their hearts and placed them into heart-shaped candy boxes. He then secretly placed the boxes at the party at the Union Hall with a warning that said to never hold another Valentine's Day dance again.
Maybe Valentine's Day is big in Canada. Maybe that's a thing.
Well, that's why I asked if that's like maybe an 80s thing or if it's like a Canada thing. I don't know.
Do we have any Canadian listeners that we haven't offended and ran off yet with our horrible accents? To let us know. Is Valentine's Day like how Halloween is here?
I wonder. So after the bartender finishes this gruesome history lesson, We see that these young people don't take this seriously at all, one of them even remarking it being a fairy tale.
You know what this old guy is? He's the Friday the 13th guy.
It's like the Harbinger.
He's like the
What he
old
is.
man warning everybody.
A harbinger,
He's
yep.
coming.
It was at this point that I realized that I couldn't wait for Howard to be killed. Don't like him.
Yeah, immediately. Can't stand him. It's in my notes like 3 times. I
Yep.
could wait for this fucking guy to die. Something about his not only his acting.
He's like 13 years old.
Yes, he's annoyingly like
Annoying.
he just overplays it.
Oh, yeah. So during this bar scene, we see Sarah sneak away from Axel in order to talk to TJ, where she informs him that this was all his fault because he just up and left her to move to the West Coast, which, of course, he doesn't want to hear any of this.
I fucking hate TJ immediately.
I don't hate him, but I do dislike he's kind of a baby.
He's a whiny little bitch throughout this movie. He's so mad that everybody else is having a good time and he's like failed in his attempt to move out west. And then he leaves this chick, like completely leaves her, doesn't even call her. And then when he comes back, he's like mad because she's not like madly in love with him and she moved on.
So later that night, we see a minor we assume is Harry Warden walk up and spy on old Mabel Osborne from the window of the laundromat. It looks like she is making even more Valentine's Day decorations, and while she is in the back, we see him walk in and place a heart-shaped box on the counter for her to find. He then hides next to the big dryers as she walks out and sees the Valentine's box. She then excitedly opens the card, believing it to be from a secret admirer. And it says, "Roses are red, violets are blue, one is dead, and so are you." The lights then shut off as the miner jumps out at her. We see her attempt to get away by trying to hit him with the whole row of dryer doors. Obviously, this has no effect on him. She then turns and tries to run out of the back, but before she can make it to the back door, the miner grabs her hair and throws her to the ground. He then raises his pickaxe, where we then get a shot of outside of the laundromat as she screams in pain. Next up, we see the guys hanging out in the junkyard late at night. TJ comes to talk to Axel about the Sarah situation. Axel tells him that he isn't going to break up with Sarah just because he came back and he needs to get over it. TJ gets really upset by this and wants to fight, but Axel is kind of like, that's dumb, and he just leaves. Hollis comes over to talk to TJ, explaining that it's not really Axel's fault. TJ left without telling anyone, and they had no idea if he was ever coming back, which TJ agrees. The next day, Chief Newby calls the state mental hospital, trying to find out if Harry Warden had escaped again. The lady on the phone says she doesn't have any record of him being there, which angers the mayor and Chief Newby. She says that he may have been transferred or dead or whatever, and in order to find out for sure, she would have to check the records down the basement, which could take a couple of days.
Did I mention he was court ordered?
Yeah.
How many times does he say that?
He thinks that
Like
holds a
4
lot
or
of
5
weight.
times. He's like, did you not hear me? He was court ordered to be there.
Yeah, she should have been like, did you not hear me? There's no fucking records here. We then see Chief Newby arrive at the laundromat looking to talk to Mabel about canceling the dance. At first, he can't find her, even looking in the back office. And while searching, he begins to smell something odd in the room, which kind of puts him on guard. He suspiciously begins searching around the washers and dryers for some kind of note left by the miner. The whole time he's in this room, from the moment he walked in, I could see the bloody dryer door glass. I don't know if you noticed it. It's there from the very beginning. And he's walking past, and I'm yelling at the screen dude, how do you not fucking see? The door is literally covered in blood.
This guy's an awful mayor.
He's the cop.
Our cop. Yeah. Him and the mayor, both awful.
He then opens the dryer door next to the bloody one. He still doesn't see it.
Well, this whole thing happens, and he's like, they mention calling the next big town over, and he's like, oh no, don't do that. This place will be swarming with police.
Don't do that. The movie will be over.
Yeah, I'm like, So you would rather not contact the city next door that could not only help you and send more resources, but also there's a good chance that this killer would be staying in this city. Like, he's obviously not staying in this small ass town where everybody knows each other. Why, like, and then we find out a little bit later on, he, like, covered up the murder. He said it was a heart attack, which it kind of was. The heart did get attacked. But,
along with everything else.
I bet you the smell was just, there's nothing like the smell of fresh sheets and
Burnt flesh.
dead old lady in the dryer.
So while the first dryer only had clothes in it, and as he is putting the clothes back, we see the dryer next to him pop open because, he can't seem to, it's like the dryer was like, okay, dumbass, here you go. Like, I'm just going to give it to you. But yeah, it pops open to reveal a bloody, dried up corpse of Mabel.
Poor Mabel.
This is awesome. You remember in the beginning when I said that the pictures of some of the effects that they cut went to Fangoria magazine?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I got a picture of Mabel from Fangoria magazine.
Good. This was like one of the coolest. Yeah.
That's pretty dope.
Yeah, that's awesome. God, I wonder if somebody has that. That thing's probably falling apart now.
That's awesome, though.
But yeah, it looks good.
It looks so much better than what they ended up having in the movie.
I would love, nobody would ever get, unless they were a true like slasher fan, but I would love to have an actual bust from that mold done. Like, if I had a bust just like that, that shit, I thought that was one of the coolest shots of the movie, was her dead body spinning around in the dryer still when it's open. I was super bummed and super let down that we didn't get to see her kill. Like, it does that.
Yeah, it got cut out.
Which I know this is a big thing with 80s horror movies, and I never realized how much of it was more than likely the ratings boards just tearing it apart. They probably had something filmed for that, and they had to cut it. But they definitely made up for it in her dead body.
You remember they had every single kill cut up. So we then see the mayor and the chief newbie discussing Harry Warden's return. The mayor tells newbie to call in police help from the nearby bigger town. Newbie says no, not yet, that if they do that, there will be police all over the town, which would cause a panic. In my opinion, you probably should cause a panic.
Yeah, this is a panicable offense.
There's a murderer just kind of killing everyone, and it'd be better if everyone was on alert.
Yeah, this is multiple people killed now. And this town's fucking tiny. It's already putting a dent in their percentage for their population. Just the two people killed. So on the sign coming in, I think it was like, they had like 2,000 people in this old town or something. It's very, very small population.
That was a weird flex by Chief Newbie there. So then Chief Newbie tells the paramedics to take Mabel's body out back so no one sees, and then instructs them to tell people that she died of a heart attack, and if he finds out they disobeyed him, they will have to answer to him.
You would think he was running like an illegal drug operation or something. He's like, no, we can't have the feds snooping around here.
Well, what's he going to do to the paramedics? Going to arrest them for telling the truth? Like, what happened?
I don't know.
Weird.
After seeing this, I'd be scared he was going to kill me.
He's like, I'll kill your family.
I'd be like, was he in on this? Or does he, like, know who's doing this?
Yeah, I
Like,
think that this movie sprinkles stuff like this throughout because you're trying to figure out who the killer is. That's because they do that really bad in the back half of this movie.
Well, they do, and I didn't really pick it up until the very end. I think if they were gonna do that, they should have made it where the guy was dead. Like,
Yeah, I agree.
They clearly, like, give you who the killer is, because they even shoot some of this movie in the beginning, and there's certain shots, and I know it was a thing in the 80s, but they do it a pretty good amount in this movie where they show you from the perspective of the killer. And they normally do that in a who's the killer type movie. But my thoughts were, I really think that's cool. I wish they would have withheld who the killer was, or, obviously they had to tell the backstory, but they could have, just wrote it off as like, yeah, he died. And then you would have had the thought, well, it could be him, but it could be somebody else. I know they were trying to give you some misdirection, but I think it was too much misdirection.
So while this is going on, we see Chief Newbie find a Valentine's card stuffed in the chest hole where Maybelle's heart used to be. And the note says, "It happened once, it happened twice. Cancel the dance or it'll happen thrice." This fella is a modern day Shakespeare.
Yeah, he's spitting some fucking Walt Whitman. Like,
Man.
this dude's got a way with words.
Feel like
Good.
he just gave up on that one.
Just dropping panties with those.
The first two were good. This one,
No, I
not
didn't
so
think
great.
the second one was good either. It wasn't bad. I
It
just
just
felt like
gets
it was
worse.
something that like an 8-year-old could come up with. Like it really was. It was not impressing anybody.
Well, wait till we get to the next one. This has caused the mayor to hit a boiling point where he then instructs Chief Newbie to cancel the dance, rip down all of the decorations, and lock up the Union Hall. And as he is locking up the building, we see Patty and some of the others trying to argue that Maybelle would want the dance to go on despite her death. Chief Newbie shoots this down and tells the gang there will also be no parties at all tomorrow night.
Yeah, I don't know why they didn't cancel the fucking dance sooner. Like it's a Valentine's Day dance. Just change it to another holiday. Make it a fucking Labor Day dance or something.
You know what they could have done is just had it a day earlier or a day later.
They could have did it the following month and just had a Mother's Day dance because all these fucking chicks are probably moms at this point anyway. They're almost 30 years old.
So later that night, we see the whole gang minus Sarah at the bar having drinks. Hap, the bartender, is going on about how Maybelle's death was caused by Harry Warden and the heart attack story was a bunch of bullshit. The group then tells him that it's just an old legend. You know, he's probably thinking like these kids are dumbasses. Like, this was 20 years ago.
Yeah, that was my next
He
point.
remembers this happening.
Well, the issue is what really confused me, and my note on it was most of them were alive.
Yeah, they were little kids. But
they were kids, but they were alive and old enough to remember that there was a mass murderer killing people all over their town. In a town like this, you know that some of these people had family members who were killed or family members who knew somebody close that was killed. So, as of how they think this is, I think that was a mistake in the writing. I think they should have made it like, 40 years ago or 50 years. I mean, something's got to be pretty old for something that actually happened to become something that's thought of as a legend.
Or just, have them be like, oh, he's locked up. There's no way he's getting out again. Instead of just being like, it's a legend.
Or dead. Like
or
I
dead.
said.
Yeah,
and one of the kids or adult children even mentioned like, well, hey, I thought he was dead. Which I thought was weird because they never mentioned in the movie that he was supposed to be dead at that point. He was supposed to be locked up in the mental ward. But one of them, I don't know if that was a writing mistake too, but he's like, it can't be him. I thought he was dead.
But anyway, they decide that even though the dance has been canceled, they are still going to have a party because they are hardcore Valentine's Day fanatics. So after a brief discussion, they decide to have it at the Mind's Rec Room. We then see later on that Harp, the angry bartender, decides to show them damn kids a thing or two about pissing on Harry Warden. His words, not mine.
This guy is awful. He is that awful old guy that you roll your eyes at when you hear him. Like,
goddamn kids.
Hates his fucking life.
He's a bartender and he's like 70 years old. Man.
And he's like nosy in everybody's conversations. Like, they're having a conversation at a table 15 feet away and he's like yelling at him, hey, you fucking kids.
This Harry Warden incident is the highlight of his life.
Yeah, clearly. The only exciting thing that's ever happened in this guy's life. All I can do is wake up and hope with all I have that I don't grow old into this old man.
So he decides to sneak into the mine facility where they plan on having the party, and he sets up a fake Harry Warden / miner mannequin with a rope rigged up so when they open the door, the fake miner will swing a pickaxe in their direction, scaring them. And he is so proud of this, he opens the door several times while laughing his ass off. He then goes to leave but decides he can't resist doing it one more time, and as he opens the door, We see the real miner standing there as he swings his pickaxe upward and into Hap's neck. We then see as Hap slowly falls to the ground, the pickaxe has went through his neck and out of his eye. I love the eyeball hanging out.
The effects were top notch. Once again, we didn't get to see the kill very well, but the extra added detail of the eyeball being popped out. I love how they didn't stick the eyeball on the end of the pickaxe.
Yeah, that would have been cheesy.
Any cheesy, shitty movie would do now. They did it more realistic, like it's hanging out of the side of the eye socket. But yeah, for those who haven't seen this is a pickaxe that went into the bottom of the chin, under the mouth, through the face, and out his fucking eye. And hearing that, you probably think that, how in the fuck did they do that and make it look legit? But they did.
They did a good job.
The effects were really good for the time. I think what happened with him, because I thought it was weird, he went back. Like, I know you were stoked on this, but why'd he go back again? Did he see something? When I rewound it, so I think the last time he opens it, or the second to last time, the pickaxe, or whatever he had tied.
He has a pickaxe.
So it didn't come out like it did the other 2 times. And I think he realized that when he was walking off. And that's why he turns around and slowly goes back, because he realizes that something was off.
So the next night, which is officially Valentine's Day, we see a ton of young adults burst to the door of the rec center with boxes, decorations, and food to prepare for the party. Back at the police station, Chief Newbie is informed that he had a package delivered for him. And we see it is another heart-shaped box. He then slowly opens it, anticipating some sort of bloody body part, but instead he finds just chocolates, with a note from a now deceased Mabel that says, "Be my Valentine." I wonder if they were shacking up.
Well, I kind of took that a little different. I took it as the killer trolling the fuck out of him. I thought the killer did that. It could have been her, but she's been dead now. Like, she died the day before.
Well, she could have, took it to the, because the guy said it was delivered by the, no, he said it was a package delivered, so obviously she could have took it to the post office and said, deliver this to the police station on Valentine's Day.
Why in the hell would she deliver it in the mail when she's like in the tiny town down the street?
I don't know.
Like, well, I'm just saying that's why I took it as he was trolling. Like, the killer delivered it, had it delivered, knowing that he was going to open it and expect a heart possibly, and he would be relieved when it wasn't a heart, and then he would read the letter and be like, extra salt in the wound.
So we then jump back to the rec room to see that the party is now in full effect. All of the town's young people are there dancing, drinking, and having a good time. We then see a couple named Johnny and Sylvia leave the party and head to the mines for a more private setting. We also see another party goer claim that he is hungry and heads into the back to the kitchen to look for some food. And when he gets in there, he finds a pot boiling some hot dogs on the stove. As he goes to try to get one out, we suddenly see the miner grab his head from behind, pressing his face into the boiling water.
Dan, you died face down in a pot of boiling hot dogs. Like, imagine trying to explain that to the other souls in the afterlife. Like, they ask each other, like, "Whoa, how'd you die?"
There's this kind of stupid scene where you can see his face his skin is like burning from the hot water.
Yeah, it's like bubbling up.
But it kills it because there's hot dogs floating past his face.
I gotta say, man, I they're both shitty ways to go, but I'd rather a boiling pot of water without the hot dogs.
Yeah.
The hot dog. You know what I liked about this scene? This guy had a genuine reaction. Because as soon as somebody grabs him, he's like, hey, who is that? Like, you would think somebody was playing a prank on you, like coming up behind you and fucking with you. Yeah, somebody like Howard. And that's pretty much all he gets out of his mouth before he's face first in hot dogs. He's got wieners all over his face. Hot wieners.
So Meanwhile, back at the station, Chief Newbie claims he has had a bad feeling about the mine and decides he is going to check it out again. But before he leaves, he hears dogs outside fighting over something, and as he opens the door, he finds 3 dogs licking up the blood that is oozing from another heart-shaped box that has been placed on the curb.
They were fighting over the smell of those nice hot wieners cooking inside.
Newbie then runs the dogs off as he picks the card up off the bloody box, and as he opens it, he reads it out loud, and it says, "You didn't stop the party." There's no cool rhyme or anything this time.
There's
It's
shit
just
going. There's killing to be done now. He don't have time to sit and spend 8 hours coming up with a very childlike rhyme.
I mean, he could have did like, you didn't stop the party, so now I must kill Marty or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, he's like, the fun and games are over. That's his way of saying it's done.
Yeah.
Killing time. It's time to cook some hot dogs.
Back at the party, we see Howard trying to snort beer up his nose or something fucking stupid like that. We also see Axel get a little rough, I guess, with Sarah.
Howard is the guy who snorts Bitsy sticks. He was that kid.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. But yeah, so this causes TJ to jump in, and Sarah gets pissed at both of them and wants to leave the party, causing Axel to punch the shit out of TJ. They then start fighting before Hollis breaks it up. Axel keeps trying to come at TJ, but Hollis pushes him away and tells him to leave the party. A flustered Axel then grabs a beer and kicks open the door, leaving Sarah and the party for the night.
I don't think so. I don't think we went over the part, which I think is pretty significant, where TJ takes Sarah in his car to the beach and gives her this whole speech about him leaving.
I did skip over it because
that's an important part.
Not
man.
really. I mean,
yeah, Sarah's a cheating bitch.
Yeah, but that doesn't have anything to do with these murders.
No, but it kind of does to who's the murderer. Kind of goes back.
Oh, well, I'll cover it real quick.
Well,
TJ,
no, I already covered it.
TJ
Sorry,
captures.
I do your job for you. It's
he
cool.
captures Sarah. He takes her to the fucking spot by the water. They make out, and then that's the scene.
Well, so TJ and Axel like get in a fight at work, and TJ hauls ass out of there. And what I thought was weird is he kind of forced Sarah in his car. Like he was pulling her by the arm. It gave me very RAPE vibes. See if the algorithm catches that.
Yeah, he kidnaps her. So TJ tries to apologize to Sarah, but she isn't having it and tells him to just leave her alone. Now this whole situation has totally killed the vibe of the party and leaves everyone in an awkward silence. Until Howard decides to do his stupid beer up the nose trick again, which does lighten the mood. We then jump to Johnny and Sylvia making out in the mine. Now, they aren't like down in the mine, they're actually just in the top part where all the miners change and shower and all that stuff when they finish their shift. But anyway, we see that the miners take off their overalls and hang them on these cords, which hoist them up to the ceiling, I guess, for storage, which is weird to me.
I don't think it's for storage, so you didn't catch it earlier in the movie when they showed that?
Yeah,
they get off their shift. They immediately put their uniform and mask on this hook, and it takes it up. And they go shower, and they have like a night crew come in, or a crew that washes them during the day. That's why there was those big ass industrial dryers that she got put in. Because I thought at first, like, why do they have dryers that big, like in a laundromat? They wash all the uniforms, and then they put a clean set on for the people coming in the morning so it can drop down and they can change into their mining outfits.
I thought that they wore the same dirty ass shit every day. Because there's one that drops down, and he's even got his like water bottle attached to it.
This is a good company to work for.
I guess.
They give you clean outfits.
Yeah, because we have all these like overalls just hanging from the ceiling. It looks really creepy. Almost kind of looks like you have like hundreds of people hanging above you. But Johnny shows Sylvia how the pulley system works, and then she asks him to go grab more beers. He agrees and leaves her there in the mine. The fuck if I would stay there by myself.
Yeah. I'm a grown man, not easily scared, but that would be a creepy place to be left by
Nope,
myself.
not doing it.
Especially not when people are coming
Dying.
up missing.
So while Johnny returns to the party to get the beer, we see Gretchen and another girl in the kitchen boiling hot dogs. When Gretchen then pulls out what looks to be a boiling heart from the pot, Johnny opens the fridge but turns around like pretty much right when Gretchen yells, and we get a quick glimpse of the boiled dead face of the guy who was killed in the kitchen earlier. Johnny doesn't notice it, of course, and he just grabs the beer. Johnny then tells Gretchen that it is probably just a prank by Howard and there's nothing to be worried about. We then jump back to Sylvia, who is getting creeped out by the overalls just hanging from the ceiling. She then hears the shower room cut on and goes to investigate. While she is looking around, a bunch of the overalls suddenly drop from the ceiling like in front of her and then on her, and this causes her to panic. And as she tries to run out of the mine, Hap, the bartender's mutilated body, then drops from the ceiling right in front of her, causing her to run back the other way. So we got a Jason Voorhees vibe right here.
Yeah.
The drop in the body.
Yeah, pieces rigging shit up in the background.
This is the Canada. This is the Canadian. This is the Canadian version of Jason. God, I don't know why I cannot say that.
It really is, in the sense that the whole holiday thing, which
Yeah.
Friday the 13th ripped off of Halloween on that. Sean Cunningham specifically stated, "Hey, we got to cash in on this whole holiday thing." That's when they came up with that idea. Props to Halloween for getting that first, because they got the coolest holiday
They
made
did.
something off of. But yeah, I mean, when it comes to that, I don't think Jason, we didn't have Hockey Mask Jason, but I'm pretty sure part 2 was out before this movie. So very much big guy, big slasher, killing the fuck out of people and rigging their bodies up, dropping them everywhere. Canada's like, we got to get some of that holiday killer.
I would have really liked to have seen this killer continue in sequels like we've seen with Jason and Michael. Can you imagine like a zombie version of this guy?
Oh,
It would look
God.
awesome.
This guy looks awesome, not a zombie.
Yeah.
Like, I will say, when you take the non-zombified version of him versus Jason, he is a lot more intimidating than Jason with a sack over his head.
Yeah, this is a very cool bad guy.
I don't think Jason wore the sack very well. I mean, I hate to say I love Jason. He's my favorite slasher. But I don't think, like, the guy from Strangers, he wore a sack very well. Very scary. Maybe Jason should have put a suit on. That may have...
Just a little nicer.
Yeah, just dress a little better.
So as Sylvia then turns to run, she finds herself face to face with the miner, who grabs her head with both his hands, lifting her off her feet. He then carries her into the shower room, where he finds a sharp-looking old water spigot, where he then slams the back of her head onto it, pinning her there with blood pouring from her mouth. We then see him turn the spigot knob as he leaves the room. Moments later, Johnny walks back in with the beer in hand, looking for Sylvia. He then notices the shower running and gets excited, thinking she's in there naked, waiting on him.
Why would she go in the showers to have sex? Like, the dirty miner showers, probably full of
Fungus
yeah, it's gross.
and dirt and grime. I'm sure they don't get cleaned often.
Lots of coal.
Yeah.
Yeah, no thanks on this.
So as he walks in, he finds the room full of steam. After a couple steps forward, we see the smile on his face drop and turn to a look of horror. The camera then pans up Sylvia's bloody sweater to reveal her dead body with shower water pouring out of her mouth, and I loved it.
Yeah, that was
Awesome.
a really creative kill. I wonder, I would love to see from this kill. Okay.
There's
yeah,
the Fangoria picture of that.
That's cool. That's
Yeah.
fucking awesome.
Yeah.
I was about to say I would have loved to have seen the uncut version of this kill, because they do it in a way when he throws her up there where they shoot it all in one take up until the last second, which is right when her head's being impaled. So for that time, I mean, that's not something we've seen very much during that time. Like this, whoever the actor was, like picked her up and like he was about to impale her. But man, what a horrible way to die for one. It was a really creative kill. It looked great. It looks even better when you see that picture because I don't think we got that angle in the movie.
No, we didn't get that angle. We got another angle, but it was
It's
really
darker.
quick.
It's
Real quick.
a lot darker, and you can barely see the water. Like the amount of time they spent probably building that practical effect for the very split second we even get to see the water coming out. I gotta say, if this was real life and I was a cop that showed up here, I'd be like, man, this is fucked up. But I'm kind of impressed. That that worked. The water coming out the mouth thing, did not think that would work.
Yeah, I think the main shot we see of it is they do pretty much under her nose, like just her mouth
Yeah,
and
they don't
chin
show her
only
face.
with the water pouring out. But yeah, they don't show like her actual face.
Yeah, they cut, like, that's one thing I noticed in that was the eyes.
Yeah, the eyes creep you out because they're like popped out, like bugged out.
Yeah, just like whited out eyes. Yeah, I would really love to see the uncut version. I'm glad you got a picture of that.
I'm going to post the photos, probably on like the Facebook page where we post the episode, probably be in like the comment area. But yeah, we'll post the photos because they are awesome.
Yeah, this movie, if it does anything really good, it's just the 80s slasher vibe. It has such a good 80s slasher vibe. Back when the slashers first blew up at that time and they were making all these movies. And one thing you see specifically in the Friday the 13th movies is Jason's always finding new creative, cool ways to kill people.
That's why we watch it most of the time. Is
Yeah, I mean, we
is-
got other slashers who aren't as creative. Like Michael Myers, I don't think he's as creative with his kills. Jason sits and brainstorms. Like, Jason has a notebook, and he literally, like, writes ideas out so he doesn't...
he sketches traps.
He's like, he walks around in the foggy woods in the morning, and he's like, oh, I gotta pull out my notebook. I'll forget this one. It's like, I remember that weed eater with that saw blade I found. I've got to fucking use that.
So back at the party, we see Patty mention to Hollis that they should take some of the girls down into the mine. Hollis immediately says no, but quickly changes his mind when others show enthusiasm about heading down. He agrees to take them on one quick ride down on the little train cart and then right back up. So Hollis, Patty, Sarah, Howard, and two other partygoers who didn't really bother to look up their names because they're probably going to die soon, all head over to the main entrance of the mine shaft. As they exit the rec center, whatever the fuck that thing's called, TJ comes running out and to ask where they are going. Hollis tells them just a quick ride and they will come back. TJ then tells him he can't because he knows the rules. No women in the mine. Hollis is like, that's dumb, and the group walks off, leaving TJ to look like an asshole because he is one.
Bro, that's such like a...
I'm gonna tell.
Yeah, he
Hall monitor vibe.
Yeah, it definitely hall monitor vibes. But I feel like it was more than anything like, I'm miserable and I don't want everybody else having a fun time. And I don't want Sarah going down there because I want to force her into my car some more tonight. It was just total one of those, like, I'm miserable so nobody can be having fun.
Yeah, you know the rules. No women allowed in the mine. Like, well, there was no fighting in the mine either, and you attempted to do that just the day before, so.
This is like his boss, too. Like, his dad owns the mine, but this guy is the actual manager who's, like, obvious. They don't say it in the movie, but he's obviously the manager over them.
He seems older than them.
Yeah, he seems a bit older, but he's definitely the one telling everybody their jobs and the scenes that we do see in the mines. Thought it was really weird that this guy, who's probably like 35, is sneaking down to drink in the mines.
Earlier there was a scene where they, like, it first shows them getting off work and they all like are running to their cars, and I was like, I can't imagine having that much expendable energy after work.
I literally, I put that in my notes because I was still stuck on the God mining would be an awful job. And I could not imagine doing anything other than going home and sitting down on my ass for the rest of the day and if possible, taking a fucking nap.
They don't even go home. They shower there, change there, and go straight to the bar.
Yeah, the last thing I would be wanting to do is go to the bar after doing that shit for 8 hours. And a lot of them, a lot of miners in real life have worked over fucking 8-hour shifts. So, yeah, fuck that.
So we then see the group grab some headlamps and lanterns, hop on the little train cart, and head down 2,000 feet into the dark, dirty mine. Once they arrive at the bottom, Hollis then tells everyone that they are heading right back up, when the girls then beg for a tour, with one of them asking about an abandoned area that Hollis informs them is off limits. While Hollis is giving the tour, we see the two unnamed partygoers break off to go have some alone time. And what is it with people wanting to fuck in this mine? We've got 3 couples that are interested in fucking down here.
There's something in the air.
You got the one from the beginning, then you got Sylvia and Johnny, and now these 2 fuckers.
Yeah, I mean they're horny like some teenage kids do, man.
It's like the mine makes people horny.
It does. And maybe it's slashers. Maybe it's just the movie that they're in.
It's like Crystal Lake with the woods. Like the
Yeah.
killing in the woods, just like the ambience makes you just want to fuck. And that is the mine. This mine has like the same thing.
I get the woods thing though, like not necessarily like not the scenes where they're camping in like tents in the woods, but well, I mean that could be a thing too. But if you were a 18, 19-year-old and you were working this camp counselor job for the summer and there's other 18, 19-year-old girls that you've been trying to hook up with for years and you have no parental, like you are the parental supervision, so you have nobody over top of you. I could see that there being lots of sex and lots of pot and other drugs probably consumed. But yeah, the mine, man, I just don't get the mine thing.
Why don't these 2 just go home and do it?
I don't know. And another thing with this guy is he's like, we'll meet you back at the main shaft in 10 minutes. And he damn sure takes his time with her for only having 10 minutes.
So anyway, they sneak off into this like side room. I think it's like the engine room. And she's in like wonderment when she looks around this place. Like she looks like she just stepped into Disney World for the first time. She even says, "I can't believe you work here."
Yes.
And I'm like, this is the fucking darkest, shittiest room ever.
This was before they painted it. So it was still painted all nice.
I'm like, I don't get it. Like I can't even tell hardly what's in the room. There's like a bench and like some metal looking, I guess it's like the engines or whatever, like things in metal cases. There's like a little tiny short 3-step flight of stairs. That's all that's in this room.
Yeah.
And she's like, wow, this is 1 step below the White House.
And he's like, she makes that comment and he's like, yep. And all right, now let's get to it.
Yeah.
Like he's like totally not.
You can look around while I'm on top of you, missionary.
Yeah, man. I could see maybe like sneaking off and maybe having some oral sex.
Her knees would definitely get dirty.
Yes, that'd
be very obvious.
Well, if the knees ain't dirty, I don't know. I didn't rhyme it with anything with dirty. But
have you seen the video of the Huck Tui girl?
No.
Oh my god. There's a video that just blew up this past week where this guy is like interviewing people on the street that are like bar hopping. And he stops these 2 girls and he asks one of them, he's like, "What's your go-to like sex move?" And she's like, "You gotta hot tooey and spit on that thing." And she's like doing her hand like Yeah, she's blown up. You gotta watch that.
That's funny.
Yeah.
No, I haven't been on the internet really all week. I've been audio engineering as if I know what I'm doing, but I've been addicted to the GarageBand and have not seen that.
Yeah, you gotta check it out.
Was it like a TikTok video?
It may have started on TikTok. It's everywhere now.
Okay,
I didn't see it on TikTok, but yeah, it's everywhere. People have even started like putting her in different backgrounds. I can't remember some of the funny ones. Oh, but back at the party, we see a girl run from the kitchen screaming, which causes everyone to be alarmed, when suddenly Johnny bursts through the door, informing everyone that Sylvia has been killed. So then Axel walks from the kitchen and announces that Dave, who is the hot dog water guy, is also dead. This throws everyone into a panic when then Axel yells it must be Harry Warden, he is back, and for everyone to leave now. While everyone runs to their car, TJ and Axel try to use the payphone to call the police, but the phone line is cut. TJ then tells Axel that Sarah and the others are still down in the mine, and they agree to team up and go save them. This next part's kind of funny. So we see everyone in their cars like quickly driving out of the rec room parking lot, when suddenly TJ and Axel run out of the building in their full miner uniforms.
I didn't notice that they already were in the...
Yes.
So what I noticed was TJ about to throw his fucking arm out of the socket, trying to wave the cars on him while they are driving as fast as they can out of this parking lot. Like, everybody's horrified. They're taking off. And he's got to be that, like... that in charge guy. My dad owns his mines. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, man, they run out and they got like the overalls, the belt, the gloves, like the hats with the lights. They got it all. And I'm like, so one, how did they get changed so fast? Two, why do they have their overalls and equipment on hand at the party? And three,
Well, they were partying at the mine.
Why did they even put this stuff on? If you're going to rescue somebody, you don't need your overalls and your belt. Just go in your clothes.
Yeah, just get the light. The light's important.
The light I get, but
maybe a pickaxe could be handy with the killer.
I don't think
or
either
a
one of them
gun.
had-
If somebody had a gun, I don't know. Well, this is Canada. I don't know if they have.
They had guns at some point. I just don't know when they got rid
It's
of them.
not probably not as common to in America when these things happen. Somebody around's got a gun. Somebody has something to defend themselves with.
We don't ever see a gun in Friday the 13th, do we?
Yeah, he gets shot. He gets shot in a couple
he does.
different movies.
Yeah, he gets shot.
He gets shot and he looks down and I remember the first time. So in the earlier ones, he gets shot and it affects him. Like you think it kills him. And one of them, I think it's like the third one but later on, like Zombie Jason he just looks down.
Like that time he got shot with the paintball gun.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that one was really confusing. He's like, wait a minute. Are the bullets getting weaker here?
So as they arrive at the elevator, TJ tells Axel that he will check out the abandoned section while Axel searches the level above. This is very much the whole, hey, let's split up at the climax of the movie because one of us is secretly the killer.
Yeah, that's the only thing
Yeah.
I could take out of this. And TJ, it's at this point, especially with the splitting up, that it clicked to me that TJ's probably the killer because TJ just came back into town. Like he's been gone. He comes back. He's like angry and pissed off all the time. All these people are now all of a sudden dying. And if you pay attention, everywhere TJ's at, whether it's at this party, nobody started dying in the mines until they went down there. Definitely giving off TJ's the killer vibes here.
Yeah, I picked up on that, but because the movie was trying to show me it was TJ so much, I actually suspected it was Axel. But I wouldn't have been upset if it had been TJ.
Well, see, I thought the opposite because the movie was trying to show us so much that it was this other guy was connected because he was the prior killer, and now they've showed him they can't find him. He's no longer in this mental hospital, and they don't know where he's at, and now all of a sudden people are coming up dead. I thought the movie is trying to get you to look here when it's really TJ. So they did a really good misdirection with that, I will say.
Yeah, I liked all of it. So back down in the mine, we see Hollis, Patty, Sarah, and Howard heading towards the elevator when suddenly they spot the miner walking towards them, busting out the lights in the tunnel. We also see that a carload of people from the party pull up next to Chief Newbie and inform him of the situation down at the mine with Harry Warden. He then tells them to go home as he rushes off towards the mine. We then jump back to Hollis and gang as they attempt to find the other two that broke off earlier in the tour when they then get frightened by TJ, who jumps from behind a corner. He then tells the group that they have to head back immediately because Henry Warden is back and have killed Dave and Sylvia earlier. Before the group heads out, they tell TJ about the other two that are missing. So TJ comes up with the dumbest fucking plan ever, telling Howard to stay with the girls while Hollis checks one way and he checks another. Fuck that, dude. You should have got that group out first and then went back for everyone else.
Yeah, dumb plan.
Let's split the group up in 3 ways instead of 2. Like, this is even more of a fucking shit show.
Yeah, and the fact that he left Howard to watch after them. He should have left them to watch after Howard.
I think
Like, hey, y'all make sure Howard doesn't fucking do anything to cause the mine to collapse. Guy's a fucking idiot.
So Hollis then checks the engine room where he quickly finds the couple dead. They are lying in the missionary position still with a giant drill bit sticking through them.
Well, Harriet got what she wanted. She got screwed.
Got drilled.
She got drilled. She got screwed. Yeah. Unfortunately for them, Mike did as well. I don't think he was planning on getting screwed when they
It was a threesome.
Yeah, it was a threesome, and
that he didn't agree to.
And we can't say the word. YouTube will.
So a now freaked out Hollis begins to back out of the room when he then sees the miner who is hiding in the shadows begin to load some kind of big nail gun. Hollis hears the gun cock and turns around only to find the miner standing behind him, who then grabs his arm and shoots him in the head with the nail gun.
This is the closest to guns that they got in Canada.
It's effective. A still alive but confused Hollis stands there in a daze while the miner loads another nail in the gun. As Hollis looks around trying to hold himself up, we see the miner shoot another nail right into the middle of his forehead. A very injured Hollis then turns to stumble away. While Howard and the girls stand in the dark mine tunnel waiting for the rest of the group to return, they get suddenly frightened by a bloody Hollis who comes stumbling around the corner. Hollis then falls to the ground and dies, which sends Patty into hysterics. And from this point on, Patty drives me fucking nuts.
Yeah, she sucks. She's like literally makes absolutely no sense from this point forward. It's like she just wanted to, I guess, just sit there and get killed.
Yeah, I don't know what her deal was.
And then, of course, Howard's like, I don't care if he's still alive. Fuck him. He was dead to me 20 minutes ago.
The group then sees the miner coming down the tunnel towards them. Howard runs off, leaving the girls like a little bitch. Sarah attempts to get Patty to run with her, but she refuses to leave Hollis's body. Sarah ends up slapping the shit out of Patty. And it was well deserved. Right after the two girls get it together, Axel comes up to them asking where the others went. After a brief rundown, he tells the girls he's going to take them to the elevator to get them back to the top and find the others later, which is what TJ should have fucking done from the beginning.
Now I get why they had him dressed in the full miner outfit.
Yeah.
They had to put him in the full miner outfit.
Yeah, so you can't tell which one's doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So while they are heading down the tunnel, they are basically having to drag Patty's loud ass along while she constantly sobs about leaving Hollis's body in the mines. While on the move, Axel hears someone walking down the joining tunnel next to them. He shuts off his light and grabs a log and waits where the two tunnels intersect. When the dark figure comes around the corner, Axel swings the log, hitting the person in the gut, and after a moment, we then discover that it is TJ. Now that mostly what's left of the group are reunited, they head for the elevator. But once they arrive, they discover that the control panel has been smashed. TJ then thinks about another way out when Axel then says they should just climb. Can you imagine climbing 2,000 fucking foot tall ladder? Good God.
Yeah, that would suck. But if there's a killer running around killing people, they're probably not on the ladder.
Probably not.
It's a long ladder.
Or are they?
They're waiting. It's kind of hard to hide on a 2,000 foot ladder.
Well, because we know who the killer is, we do know that he is on the ladder.
Yeah.
So the group then begins to climb up the ladder with Patty and Sarah coming up last. Of course, Patty cries and sobs, claiming she can't do it, which really fucks Sarah over considering she's behind her.
Yeah, I don't get. She's like, now she's crying about being afraid of heights. She's like, I can't go on no more. I'm afraid of heights.
It's dark. You can't even see how high up you are.
There's a fucking murderer murdering people. Like, what are you more afraid of? Climbing a ladder or getting picked to death with a pickaxe?
Or a drill bit, or hot dog water, or a dryer.
How did he even kill them with the drill bit? Like, how did they not hear a drill bit in the dark, quiet mine? Literally, that's a big-ass machine. Like, did they literally have sex right under the drill bit? Like, right where it was stuck?
She was screaming so loud in pleasure that they didn't hear it start up.
Apparently.
As they continue climbing, though, suddenly Howard's body drops from a rope above them, stopping right next to Patty and Sarah, where we see his neck give out and his head rip from his body, then falling down to the bottom of the shaft. And I said, finally.
God.
That annoying fucker is dead.
Yeah, I've been waiting for him to die since
I wanted to see
way
it, though.
before anybody started. Well, actually, so we don't get to see him die, but I thought this was a really awesome effect in the movie because they essentially have his body drop down and he's tied to a noose and he hits, but he hits with so much force it literally decapitates him and rips his head off, which in a lot of situations in a lot of movies I'd be like, that's super unrealistic. But if you fell from that high up on a rope, yeah, your head may very well get ripped off your body.
I'm
but I
happy.
thought the effect was really good.
Yeah, it was nice. And I disliked him, so I'm glad that we got to see something gruesome happen to him.
Yeah. So I actually noticed, and I'm surprised that they didn't catch this. So it's really hard to tell, but when they're all running right before they get on the ladder, Sarah calls Patty Cynthia. It sounds like she calls her Cynthia, and I was like, that's really weird. Like, why did she? Because she's like, get it together, Cynthia. But it's quiet because the other people are talking, or it's hard to hear because the other people are talking. But I actually looked to make sure that Patty's name was Patty because I'm awful with names, and I'm like, oh, did I write her name wrong in my notes? The actress that plays her is named Cynthia.
Oh, I fucked that up. I didn't even catch that.
Yeah, I didn't. I even rewound it and. Yeah, definitely does not call her Patty.
So after this, I guess the rest of the group isn't so happy Howard is dead because this causes them to just give up on the whole ladder escape plan. Once they are all back at the bottom of the shaft, TJ says that they need to get to the rail cars and Axel claims that he knows a shortcut through the sump. So the sump area is like this underground water reservoir. And it has this like small little wooden ledge. So this causes the group to have to walk around on it like one by one. So Patty and Sarah go first and Axel tells TJ to go next and shout when he has safely made it across. Once TJ makes it, he hears Axel groan and then a splash into the water. TJ heads back in that direction, only seeing Axel's helmet and light floating towards the bottom of the reservoir. While the three are creeping through the tunnels towards the train carts, something happens to TJ. I'm not really sure what happens here.
He like splits off? Is that what you're talking about? When he splits off and she hears a noise and...
Well, he sends the girls ahead like a little bit and then he peeks around the corner of like another tunnel. And then the girls hear the sounds of like rocks falling. And when they go to find TJ, he's fucking gone and the tunnel's just black, so...
Yeah, I think this was the movie trying to now direct your attention towards TJ.
I just don't
Because
understand.
Axel falls in the water too, and he's like, that's like 50 foot deep. There's nothing we can do for him." As if somebody couldn't swim and you helped them get out. And then this happens. I think the movie was trying too hard because it doesn't make sense. Because the girls hear it and they run back and look, but they can't see anything.
Well, I don't understand what happened.
Yeah, I mean, well, obviously nothing happened to him. Nothing significant.
He had to shit.
I think.
It's like all this adrenaline. I gotta go. He's like, you guys keep going. I'm gonna go shit in this dark tunnel real quick.
Yeah, I don't get what his plan was with that either. Like, you guys stay close to the wall. The exit's up there. I'm gonna take this other tunnel and go around the long way. That's what a killer would say. He had a killer shit.
Yeah, but we don't know what the deal is, but TJ's gone.
He had to piss, really. That's what horror movies do. It's like, I gotta go like 500 yards down this tunnel to pee because I don't want anybody to hear it.
So the girls head out on their own, and after a few minutes of walking down the tunnel, the miner comes from an opening in the wall and slams his pickaxe right into Patty's stomach. Sarah screams as Patty slides down the wall, groaning in pain, where she ultimately dies, and we got another annoying character checked off the list.
Yeah. Patty, remember that ladder? Remember
Yeah.
how scary that ladder was? Bet you're not thinking about how scary that was with a pickaxe in your stomach.
So Sarah then takes off running while the miner gets his axe out of Patty's body. We then see Chief Newbie at the mine directing a ton of police cars into the parking lot. Sarah is then seen just standing in a dark tunnel alone as she cries. We then see a gloved hand reach for her shoulder, which causes her to jump in fear, but it is quickly revealed to be TJ. He's done shitting. They finally make it to the train carts, and just as they are preparing to get aboard, the miner comes around the corner, holding his pickaxe. TJ hits the control panel and the carts start moving, allowing him and Sarah to jump on, but of course, the miner climbs onto the back and begins making his way up to Sarah and TJ.
Man, the Valentine killer, or the miner, whatever his killer name is, he is horrifying, but man, that jump onto the cart was awful.
Was sad.
Yes, it was awful. Like, if he was chasing me, trying to kill me, his scariness would have dropped down a level.
So TJ grabs a shovel and begins fighting with the miner while Sarah sits at the very front of the train cart. TJ trips while
Just the tip.
TJ trips while blocking a shot from the miner, causing him to drop the shovel next to Sarah. TJ then jumps up and grapples with the miner, causing them both to fall off the side. Once Sarah sees this, she grabs the shovel and immediately jumps down to help TJ. They battle it out some more, with Sarah totally getting in the way. You see, he's like fighting with the miner with the shovel and the pickaxe, and she's like literally like right up against him as they're walking backwards. Like, get out of the way.
Yeah, you would think she would try to get as far away from that as possible.
She's almost in between them.
TJ brought a shovel to an axe fight.
So while this is going on, we see that Chief Newbie and all the police officers / volunteers are all running down the train tunnel in Sarah and TJ's direction. As TJ blocks the miner's axe swings with the shovel, Sarah finds a boarded up doorway that she quickly runs into. TJ follows her in with the miner close behind. Once they are inside, we see that this is a very small and old tunnel that looks like it hasn't been used in a very long time. TJ and the miner resume fighting once inside. The miner's pickaxe keeps hitting the old walls of this tunnel, causing it to begin to collapse.
Which, interesting, is not making noise. I thought the audio was very weird in that scene. Did you that didn't stick out to you?
No, I was so caught up in the battle.
Well, I
didn't
was
catch
too,
it.
but it kind of really affected the battle for me. You know how you see them shooting scenes of movies behind the scenes, and it's all quiet normally.
Yeah,
and
because
they
a lot
go
of the
in-
shit's like foam and vinyl and stuff.
Yeah, and then they go in and add everything in the background.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they forgot to, like, this axe is slamming into the walls and like sparking off the rocks. and there's like no noise happening.
Because it's a rubber pickaxe.
Yeah, it's very, very strange. Like you can hear them. You would think like maybe the background music was so loud you couldn't hear it, but you can actually hear them making noise, like grunts and shit as they're fighting, but the weapons are not making any noise. I gotta say, the miner is holding his own for fighting in a fucking gas mask. That would be extremely difficult.
It's weird that the gas masks, if they're made for the mine, while the eyes are so tinted, because you wouldn't be able to fucking see anything.
I can't see anything down there anyway. If I just like reach your hand out and rub some shit between your fingers, if it's coal, you'll know.
So, despite this, the miner keeps wildly swinging, trying to hit TJ. The miner then gets his axe stuck in a support beam, which he then lets it go and pulls out a knife. I think he pulled out a buck 120.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
Yep.
They didn't ever show it close enough to confirm exactly, because I waited for him to show it again, and you never get a good close-up of it again. But I am pretty sure I seen a shiny back of the handle on that thing, and I do believe that it was a buck 120, which makes me think, damn, that knife must have been really popular. Because that was on the cover of a Friday the 13th years and years later after this, but it was still in the 80s, maybe 5-6 years after this. It was on the cover of Friday the 13th, the final chapter. It's in this, ended up being obviously the Scream knife, which made it famous.
It was in another movie we covered too,
uh,
but I don't remember exactly what it was.
God damn it.
We've talked about it
what was
before.
I mentioned it. I mentioned it on the podcast because I want to say, God, it wasn't. I feel like it was a witchy movie for some reason. Was it a Fear Street? One of the Fear Streets?
Oh yeah, they used it in Fear Street because that killer that was kind of based off of Ghostface. I think he had one.
No, but like one of the girls is carrying it at some
remember
point.
that's the knife that fucking stabs Nick Good in the back. That's when we seen it.
Yeah, I know it was in. Yeah, one of them was carrying it, and I feel like because she was such a big horror fan, the lady that made the Fear Streets, that she specifically made sure that that knife was in the movie because it's such a famous knife in horror. But I do wonder how many more movies we're going to cover that's going to have a buck 120 in it.
But after this, he begins to move towards Sarah, who is trying to help TJ up off the ground. And as he stands over her, he pulls the knife back. Sarah reaches up and pulls his mask off, revealing the killer isn't Harry Warden. It's actually Old Man Withers, and he would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for you kids and that meddling dog.
That's still running down the road after that car.
That's the wrong movie. No, the killer here is Axel. And a shocked TJ then asked why, and we then get a quick flashback of when Henry Warden came back and killed those two supervisors. We see that one of the supervisors was actually Axel's dad, and Axel hid under the bed and watched his father's heart get cut out. Not exactly sure why this caused Axel to grow up and want to be a murderer, but that's what we got.
I thought, so I get him being upset over so essentially this party caused this miner to get trapped, which caused him to go crazy and kill a bunch of people, and one of the people was his dad. So, I get you having some feelings when they decide, we're going to have this party again. We're just going to pretend that none of it happened. The whole town pretends that it didn't happen. The kids even call it, or young adults even call it, a legend, as if it didn't even happen. I could get that bringing up if you had some severe mental issues from it, that sparking up some stuff, obviously. If you had bad PTSD and you had done therapy for years about this, and then all of a sudden they decide to have this party again, which is what got your dad killed, I could see that triggering something. But as of why you would want to dress as the killer who killed your dad, really was just crickets for me. I couldn't come up with any good explanations for that.
Yeah, I don't know. But I'm fine with it. TJ then immediately hits Axel in the face with a rock, allowing him to jump up just in time as the ceiling of the tunnel begins to collapse on top of Axel. Sarah and TJ then run out of the opening back into the main tunnel where they find Chief Newbie and the rest of the officers. TJ then tells his dad, the mayor, and Chief Newbie that the killer isn't Harry Warden, it's actually Axel. To which Chief then responds that the hospital called him back earlier and informed him that Warden died 5 years before. We then see a large group of people attempting to dig Axel out of the collapsed rock when they suddenly see his hand move. And one of the helpers then yells that he is alive. This causes Sarah and TJ to run back in, where Sarah then attempts to touch his hand when he suddenly grabs her arm. She tries to pull away when we then see that Axel has cut his own arm off in order to escape. He then yells from the other side to TJ, informing him that he will be waiting in hell for him. He then tells Harry that he is coming and the whole town is gonna die. He then begins methodically laughing as he stumbles further and further into the mine, and right before he disappears into the darkness, he asks Sarah to be his Bloody Valentine. And that is the end of My Bloody Valentine.
Man, I got to say that was one of the weirdest fucking endings.
He's
It's
like
so
he lost
weird.
his mind all of a sudden.
It's like American Psycho when he snaps at the end and he just is like almost even talking in a different voice, like a different version of him is taken over. But yeah, a lot of things that made that weird. That whole like shit at the end, that whole dialogue was really weird. The fact that Sarah wanted to run back and is like,
I
oh
have
my
to see
God, I
him.
have to see him. If he's still alive, like she's still madly in love with him, as if she didn't just cheat on him with TJ and caused him to get in a huge fight, and as if he didn't kill all her friends and attempt at killing her. I would imagine he was going to kill her too. It'd been kind of obvious if he was just like, all right, you scatter on out of here.
I chalk it up to the lack of quality oxygen down in the mine just kind of made everyone crazy after a while.
Yeah, maybe.
That's my excuse.
But yes, a very, very weird ending. I didn't see it, especially earlier in the movie, being Axel. I actually liked Axel a lot. I liked his character. Didn't like TJ, so maybe that's why I liked Axel. Axel actually boxes the shit. Like, TJ finally tries to fight him because TJ's just got this, like, I'll beat your ass attitude all the time. And when he steps to Axel fucking decks his ass. And then when he comes back, he counters it and decks him again. Like
He whoops his ass.
it makes sense of why he was so good in the miner's outfit. Like, he clearly doesn't fuck around. He's a big dude. And it answers a really, really big question that I had from the very beginning of this movie is, how the fuck did this old guy, Harry, pull that chick in the beginning of the movie? And now it makes sense.
She's in the minors, like that's all that matters.
Yeah, well, it makes sense now. He didn't. It was old Axel Rose pulling him after the show.
You know that actor, he has done like a ton of work on he was on like The Simpsons for years. He did a bunch of shows, like animation shows.
Huh.
This was like I think the only movie he was ever like the star in. He was in some other movies, but this is his most famous role. But yeah, he's done a ton of like very big time. He might have worked on like Futurama, The Simpsons. He did a bunch of stuff on Family Guy, I think. Yeah. Interesting. So in an interview with TerrorTrap.com, director George Mihalka said that the shooting location at the Sydney Mines, Nova Scotia, was chosen because of its rustic atmospheric appearance. However, when the locals found out that a movie was to be shot there, they decided to spend $50,000 to have the mine painted and cleaned.
What?
Yeah. So I talked a little bit about it in the beginning, but this
That's-
is directly what the director said.
And that's $50,000 in 1982, I assume, is
Yeah.
when they filmed this.
120,000 a day.
Jesus Christ. Could you
So-
imagine how fucking like for the people working on this movie to find that out, like if you were a director in charge of this movie and you get there and realize that these people spent $50,000 to ruin your set,
Yeah.
that you chose it for that very reason and they've ruined it. And then for the people who spent $50,000 to find out they went in there and just fucked it up again.
Oh, it gets
Like, you
worse.
guys are fucking dumb.
So this, of course, diminished the reason that the production wanted the location to begin with. And then he said that they spent $75,000 of the film's budget to return the mine to its original state for shooting.
Wow, they pretty much lit $125,000, and the movie and the townspeople got together and threw $125,000 in cash and set it on fire.
So
It went to absolutely nothing, but the people who did the work, I guess, made some money.
So the reason that the town did this was because they thought that this would bring tourism to the town because the mine was now shut down.
Who visits I've never one time in my entire life seen a painted mine. Like, oh, that's a beautiful mine. Honey, we got to go there for vacation this year.
I think that they thought, like there's a lot of people, like there's still to this day a lot of people that go and take tours of the Friday the 13th camp. So I thought that they assumed it was going to be like people would want to come see the mine that this big movie was filmed in,
Yeah.
which honestly I probably would do.
See, there's a big drive to visit these locations now because they're classic movies that went down in
We're
history.
thinking ahead.
But yeah, for the time, like, I don't think in 1983 people were flocking to go where Friday the 13th was filmed.
Well, it turns out that it did not create tourism in this town, so it just didn't work out.
Yeah, and I mean, even if it did, like, not a whole lot of people go on vacation to go down in a mine.
Not really, no.
And like I said, I've never seen a pretty painted mine in my entire life. Like, would $50,000, did they install like lights and shit down there? They have a whole
Well,
mine museum in the mine.
they probably spent a lot of money getting a lot of junk out of there, I would assume, and to haul, all this old junk up, 2,700 feet. Probably not cheap.
It was pretty clean in there.
He also said that the actors and extras playing miners in the group shower scene were genuinely naked, even though they were only filmed from the chest up. They were all butt-ass naked in there while they were filming. Interesting. So star Neil Affleck said that the identity of the film's killer was kept a secret, even from the cast, because the filmmakers liked the idea of the mystery being real amongst the actors. However, Affleck figured out that he was the killer when, after being cast, he was sent to the makeup effects department to be fitted for a fake arm that would be ripped off the killer in the film's finale. He also says that he still owns the miner helmet he wore in the film.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's something I would like to see. Is it just the helmet, or does he have the whole gas mask?
It just says helmet. I don't know.
That would be actually a really cool bust to get, and it probably wouldn't cost that much because, well, I don't know.
Find that old mask.
Finding
maybe.
the old mask would cost. It might cost money. It depends on how many of them they made. Like, for example, getting a Israeli gas mask, because so many of them's been made. It's really easy. Maybe companies get them and make bongs.
Yeah, they're real
shit
creepy
out of
looking.
them. But yeah, a vintage gas mask like that might cost some money, actually. So I take that back. Probably wouldn't be cheap, but it would be really cool to have a full-on bust of the original My Bloody Valentine killer.
So this is my favorite fact. So originally, the death of Mike and Harriet was supposed to be shown on screen. The elaborate sequence showed the miner drilling an auger into the couple as they made love. The MPAA rejected the scene outright and it was completely cut from the film, unlike the other murder sequences which were edited down. The scene has yet to be restored on uncut releases of My Bloody Valentine. And I did see an interview, I think it was in Fangoria with a director, where he said that, so the version that I have now, the one that we watched for this was the Scream Factory. And that is the most completed version to the original one that was a cut. So what happened was the producer actually kept a lot of the film from the cut scenes in a safe in his house for a long time. And I think in 2009, when they first decided to put this together, he brought those out, but some of the film had degraded. And I think that this one, it was actually completely lost, but the other stuff that we didn't see, the other 3 minutes that weren't included, just had degraded. It had been so old. Luckily, they saved most of it, which is the version that we have now. But yeah, so this whole awesome thing was shot and apparently looked great, but nothing exists of it anymore.
Yeah, it seemed like even he wasn't 100% sure on everything, because that had probably been so long, and to remember the exact sequences that were cut and what hadn't. But I noticed he did say that this is most of the cut footage that was taken out was restored. I think he even used the word probably in there. Seemed like he wasn't sure exactly what was lost and what wasn't, but clearly that scene was lost. And man, every time we cover this in any movie, it's just heartbreaking thinking about the people who spent so much time putting that prop together and planning it out and building it. For the director and producers who put out a movie, and this awesome part that they filmed and was like, people are gonna love this, doesn't get to see the light of day. But also just for us as fans, because we don't even, all we can do is picture in our head what this looked like. Like when we could, like this and the Friday the 13th and all the movies that they've cut, I always think about, like, man, how awesome of a movie it would be to be able to, like, it would just, I mean, it's a slasher movie. Like, the reason we watch these movies is for the kills, not for the storylines, that's for sure. And the coolest part of the kills, we actually lose. It's heartbreaking.
Yeah, I think from hearing the director talk about it, I think this is one of the things he was most upset about is, this didn't even get cut down. This got completely removed. So, and it probably would have been the coolest kill in the whole movie.
Well, at the beginning, when he comes on the in the very beginning of the movie and talks about that, you can tell that really bothered him. Like, I don't know what he did in his career, what he went on to do, but you could tell to this day that it bothers him that they cut as much out as they had to.
All right, so ratings and kill count. Total kills is 11, 12 if you count the killer himself. We have the lady in the mine who was impaled with the pickaxe. Mining supervisor 1, who we seen, was killed by Harry Warden. Maybell, who was killed and placed in the dryer. Hap, who got the pickaxe through the neck and out of his eye. Dave, who got boiled in the hot dog water. Sylvia, who was impaled through the back of the head water pipe. Mike, who was found impaled with the drill bit. Harriet was killed with the drill bit. Hollis, who was shot in the head with the nail gun. Howard, we don't know how he died, but his head eventually ripped off. And Patty, who got the pickaxe to the gut. Favorite kill, I'm up first this time, and mine is Sylvia. It is simple, yet the water running out of the mouth is so awesome and unique and stupid that I love it. I am a huge fan of that. My close second would be, it originally was Hap for the eyeball hanging out. But after I seen that picture of what's her name? Maybelle in the dryer. Yeah, that's a hard call.
Yeah, I gotta go with Hap.
It's a good one.
The pickaxe, the detail on it too, with the eyeball like not being stuck on the tip of it, which I feel like they would do in most movies. I just thought, like, as far as gruesomeness, that was and creativeness, that was the best kill. It really wasn't significant to the story in any way. It was just awesome looking. A close second for me would obviously definitely be Sylvia. The creativeness, when he put her up there, my first thought was, I wonder if it's going through into her mouth, like if it went all the way through. And then as soon as he reached up to turn the water on, I knew. I was like, oh, they're gonna do it. They're gonna have like the water spraying out of her mouth, and they did.
It's awesome.
Both those kills I think are fucking awesome. The effects that we seen on both of those kills were top notch for the time.
All right, so film rating. I gave this movie a 3.3. I enjoyed that it's an 80s slasher. It's got a much different tone to it, I think, than most of the 80s slashers. I really like that they kind of did the town characters who've known each other for a long time, and the whole mine, and the miner as the killer is a lot different than a lot of the 80s slashers we see, where it's a group of teenagers or young adults they go somewhere and get killed. This one had a lot more of a backstory to it. It's just a little bit different. It's like all the stuff that we like, but then just a little bit change up of the kind of normal 80s slasher stories we get. I also think the kills are really interesting, and it's a total shame the MPAA like fucked the movie over, but there was a lot of really creative kills, and I give them credit for that. And I also give them a lot of credit for filming inside of an actual mine. That's ballsy.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
I actually did know that, which is the reason I picked this movie. That was one of the main things I had always known about this. So, yeah, it's a fun 80s slasher. I mean, it's nothing like super great. MPAA kind of fucked it over, but watch the unrated version, and you get most of that back. But it's a fun movie. I mean, it's nothing to really brag about or anything, but I recommend it if you love 80s slasher movies.
Yeah, so I gave this movie way off from your rating, a 3.4.
Yeah, that's so far away.
Yeah, a whole 0.1%. Oh, excuse me, that would be a 2%, 0.1 difference. So I thought, for one, to start out, the killer in this movie I really like. I don't know why. It's probably like this for most people, but there's something inherently creepy about a gas mask. A lot of different gas masks, but specifically when you're in a mine and somebody's trying to kill you. I think the killer, he stands up there with, I'm surprised he's not mentioned in more slashers, especially like 80s slashers, when you see the like compilations and the drawings and stuff of 80s slashers, because I think he's a really scary killer, especially in a mine. If I was trapped in a mine with this guy, I'd be fucking horrified. I think this movie has all the ingredients for a classic 80s slasher. The effects I thought were really good. I wish we had gotten to see more of the kills. Obviously, I didn't look any of it up, but I assumed that the ratings board had to absolutely cut this thing to pieces. But they really, really made up for that, and how good the bodies looked. We did get to see a lot of the bodies after the kills, and the effects that they put into it were great. One thing, the score is it exemplifies an 80s slasher. Like, you could literally watch this movie blindfolded and hear the score and know exactly that the movie was around the time it came out, and that it was a slasher film. The whole story of a man wronged and coming back to take vengeance, that's That's something that we've seen a million times, but then that was not the case. You know, this probably wasn't the first movie to do that, but it was one of the earlier ones that paved the way for a lot of the big time horror movies we know now. I would say overall, this is a definitive classic, and I'd say if you're a fan of 80s horror or slashers, or both, this is definitely one to watch.
Well, that is our opinions on My Bloody Valentine. Once again, we thank you guys for listening. Please give us a follow or like if you enjoy the show. Check out the website, check out the socials. Tell a friend, a family member, or a Canadian about the show. And we hope to see you next time.